It is great to be with you on this Friday morning. I'm Jessica Layton, in for Joe and Savannah today. We begin this morning with an abrupt about-face in talks between the United States and Iran. A planned formal agreement signing ceremony between the two sides set for today in Switzerland has been postponed. President Trump signed the 14-point agreement this week while at the G7 summit in France. But it is unclear when final talks between the two nations will now take place. The White House confirming last night Vice President J.D. Vance would not travel to Switzerland as planned. Now, the Memorandum of Understanding lays out the terms for ending the war and reopening the Strait of Hormuz, but right now it's raising more questions than answers. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill also have their doubts regarding the terms of the deal. NBC's Bofta Yamam joins us now from Washington with the latest developments on this. Bofta, good morning.
Good morning, Jessica. The agreement stirring controversy on Capitol Hill. This, as Vice President J.D. Vance actually will not be traveling to Switzerland today to help that final peace deal move forward. As you mentioned, he's no longer going, saying technical talks have not been finalized. Meanwhile, Iran isn't holding back, claiming the interim agreement as a victory. An initial agreement between the United States and Iran to end the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz is causing a different ripple effect in Washington. Some of the president's own party balking at one of the key points, the possible $300 billion rebuilding fund for Iran.
We tell you some of it support things that we don't care for.
I wouldn't want to give Iran any money, so let's see what's in it and how it's structured and so forth.
Signed late Wednesday, the agreement starts the clock on a 60-day negotiating window focused on resolving key issues around the future of Iran's nuclear program, including Iran's commitment that it won't procure or develop nuclear weapons. More peace talks expected Friday, but now Vice President J.D. Vance scrapping plans to travel and meet with Iranian leaders in Switzerland. Meanwhile, Vance rebuffed reports that Iran got the better end of the agreement.
If they don't change their behavior, they don't get the benefit of the bargain.
Under the agreement, the U.S. would lift sanctions on Iran, plus unfreeze funds and assets linked to the country's regime. Some Democrats stayed critical, calling the agreement a historic failure.
This was not only a blunder and a mistake, but it's a costly one, and perhaps the biggest presidential failure that we've seen in 20 years.
Literally everything that President Trump said he was trying to accomplish with this war, he has failed to accomplish.
But world leaders attending the G7 summit mostly threw their support behind the agreement, hoping for some relief for the global economy. Now, President Trump has suggested the deal might not hold once the text is finalized, and that if he was unhappy with how the terms were executed, he would resume the war. In Washington, Bofta Yamam, NBC News. Jessica, back to you.
Bofta, thanks so much. For more on this fallout from the deal in Washington, let's bring in NBC News White House reporter Catherine Doyle. Catherine, good morning. Great to have you. President Trump said that Vice President Vance is the, quote, fall guy if the talks with Iran go sideways. We are already seeing this play out a bit today after Vance's trip to Switzerland was abruptly canceled overnight. What has he had to say about the president's comments, and is it a political gamble for him to take on such a public-facing role in these negotiations?
Hi, Jessica. Good morning. As you mentioned, of course, there's an element of risk for the vice president. He's been out front on this deal. He's been leading the negotiations, and he's been key in defending the agreement all week. As you mentioned, the talks overnight, the talks this weekend have been postponed. We don't yet know when those are going to resume. But he's also taking the president's comments lightly about what the impact on his political future could be. The president had joked about Vance being held responsible for what would happen. Take a listen to what Vance said yesterday.
I think the president was joking, but as he often does. But no, I think, look, the entire team has worked very well on this, and we've got this thing to a very good place for the American people. Now, I have seen some progressive criticisms of me personally saying, what experience does the Vice President of the United States have with hostile, high-stakes negotiations? And I would point those progressive critics to the fact that just 2 days ago, I spent over an hour on The View.
So as you can hear, the vice president is using humor to deflect from the criticism. He's joking there that his host on The View and comparing them to his Iranian counterparts. And as we know, the talks are going to be delayed. He's supposed to arrive in Switzerland. He was supposed to arrive in Switzerland soon, and now that looks set to be delayed a little bit further. We don't know yet exactly when that's going to happen. But the 60-day clock on the negotiations have already started. And as President Trump said earlier this week, he could resume strikes if they don't reach an agreement in time.
Catherine,
Jessica?
the Pentagon is finalizing an internal investigation into that deadly airstrike on the Iranian elementary school. We know that happened on the first day of the war 4 months ago. This is according to a person familiar with the probe. But there are some members of Congress who are concerned about how the Trump administration will handle whatever the findings may be. What more can you tell us on that?
So that investigation was one of the deadliest moments of the war for civilian casualties. There were around 170. It struck children, and at the time, the reports in the press suggested that the missile that was the fragments of the missile that were found related to potentially part of an American cruise missile. So the Pentagon has been investigating that since that point. They're in the final stages of the investigation. They're expected to share that soon. Well, the concern now is that the report could be classified. Just earlier this week, the president was asked about the report. It's been several months in the making, and he said, quote, "Mistakes are made, war is nasty," and punted questions about the upcoming report to the Pentagon. The question now for lawmakers is whether they're going to be able to get, is when they get that info, whether that's going to be released publicly. They've had trouble being able to get info from the Pentagon and from the administration on that so far. And so they're wondering what exactly the public is going to be able to find out about what happened on that deadly day.
All right, Catherine Doyle in Washington, thank you. In the U.S., Mother Nature continues to bring relentless rain and dangerous flooding across the South. Flood watches are in effect for millions of people yet again this morning from Louisiana to Georgia. It comes after hundreds of homes were flooded out in Louisiana alone. Look at this video now showing the high water levels left behind by the remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur. Officials in Texas now say that the heavy rains have turned deadly after several days of downpours. Our NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson is in Louisiana with more on the impact of this severe weather. Priscilla, good morning.
Yeah, Jessica, good morning. At least 3 tornadoes reportedly touched down across Mississippi and Louisiana as a result of this storm. And you can see some of that damage here just behind me. The side of this building completely sheared off. You've got cinder blocks and debris everywhere. And this is some of what folks are seeing. But the real threat has been the heavy rain and the flooding. We know now of at least 1 fatality in Mississippi, a county road worker who was killed while cleaning some of the storm's aftermath. But in Louisiana, there has been a disaster declaration declared. More than 180 homes flooded, according to the National Weather Service. A lot of that having to do with some areas receiving roughly 2 feet of rain, just an incredible amount of rain. And all of this was the remnants, much of this was the remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur, even though it is no longer a tropical storm, continuing to see some rain and some of the impacts of that here. And so really just a lot going on, dramatic images of water rescues taking place across Mississippi. We saw a mobile home park that was nearly submerged. There were residents in another area that were told to evacuate after those fast-moving floodwaters moved in. And even around New Orleans, a crocodile in the water just steps from people's homes in the suburbs here. So just really dramatic things that we're seeing as a result of this flooding. And there is still a threat. In Mississippi, there is the Anchor Lake Dam that officials say is in danger of failing. They are monitoring it very closely and say if there is any more rainfall, it could be a serious problem there. They've already ordered some evacuations and just are continuing to urge people to be weather aware, to be vigilant, to be cautious, because this may not be over just yet.
Priscilla Thompson, thank you. And with that, more flooding risk and severe weather is this weekend. It's on the way. Let's take a look now at your Morning News Now weather. Meteorologist Andrea Romero joins us now. Andrea, good morning. What do we have in store?
Good morning, Jessica. And we do have more wicked weather, you can say, in store for the south east across the country, across the Gulf Coast. We're looking at more rain as the remnants of Tropical Storm Arthur continue to move offshore, but is still trapped in the area, some of that moisture. And we can see today, this morning, we have some rainfall extending along the mid-Atlantic coast. But of course, our focus today, it will continue to be the southeast, the Gulf Coast. We have over 9 million people people, which will be under this flood watch, which extends all the way from Louisiana into Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, even into the northern panhandle. And we're expecting the worst of the rain, where the flash flood risk will be the highest, to definitely be in this area right here, shaded in pink, where the moderate risk. We're expecting hourly rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour as the remnants of Arthur continue to move off the southeast coast. New downpours will be developing along the slow-moving front, and that will continue into tomorrow even, with that flooding still possible in areas where the heavy rainfall will be falling, especially here of concern, parts of southern Alabama, over here into Louisiana and into close to Pensacola. So we're expecting the rainfall forecast to be an additional 1 to 3 inches. Maybe some areas can even see up to 6 inches of rainfall. Of course, this is all falling over saturated ground, so you don't need a lot to trigger that flash flooding, and that's why we're really concerned that that area hasn't seen the worst yet. Now, we are also expecting a severe threat to be moving into the central plains east of the Rockies. Basically, all hazards are on the table as the storm system brings severe weather tomorrow into this area. We're talking about strong gusty winds, damaging hails, and even the possibility of some tornadoes that can develop in that area, and that will be moving into the Midwest for Sunday. The heat alert is the heat is on over in the southern tier of the country. Over 41 million people are impacted by these heat alerts that are issued already for parts of Texas, into Louisiana, even here in parts of South and Central Florida. Look at the temperatures. The heat index values are in the triple digits from Texas all the way into Florida. So we're going to be dealing with that high heat also. And we do have a fire risk out west. So there's a lot of weather going on across the country.
Yeah, a lot to be vigilant about. All right, Andrea, thank you. The streets of New York City turned orange and blue as an estimated 2 million fans turned out to celebrate the Knicks and their historic NBA championship yesterday. But that joyous scene was later clouded by a shooting in Times Square that had tourists running for cover just hours later. Our NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has more on all of this. Sam, good morning.
It was one of the most tightly secured, police-blanketed days in recent New York City memory, and the New York Knicks championship parade went off without a hitch. Unfortunately, a shooting just hours later here in Times Square completely upended what was otherwise a joyous day. A terrifying scene in the heart of Times Square. The sound of gunshots sending people scattering in one of the most congested parts of New York City. Police say one person is in custody and no injuries at this time. The dramatic incident coming just hours after what the NYPD called its biggest planned operation ever. Securing Lower Manhattan for the Knicks parade after the team's first title in more than 50 years. A New York crowd coming out by the millions, flooding the streets with Broadway jammed shoulder to shoulder right along the parade route. Subways teeming and people just trying to sneak a peek. Other fans turned away hours before the parade even began because of crowds. The NYPD says an estimated 2 million people attended with no major incidents. The team stars, including point guard Jalen Brunson, soaking in the moment.
Damn, New York, we really did it, man. We really did it.
The city's euphoria permeated the streets.
The unity, it's unbelievable. We're all New York, we're all Knicks fans.
So often when this city comes together, it is because we are forced to, by a moment of tragedy or adversity. What a gift it is to be brought together by pure, unfiltered joy.
For so many, that joy still remains the sobering reality. Securing the biggest city in the country is never without challenges. According to NYPD, there were officers nearby as the first calls came in about a shooting, and they were able to respond immediately. The suspect is now in custody. As for the New York Knicks parade, 2 million people, only 13 of them taken into custody with 10 arrests. Remarkably successful from a law enforcement standpoint. From Times Square, Sam Brock, NBC News. Back to you.
Sam, thank you. Today, Americans across the country are holding celebrations in honor of Juneteenth. This is the 5th year the holiday has been federally recognized. It commemorates a pivotal moment in our nation's journey toward ending slavery. Constance Jones from NBC Miami takes a closer look at how communities all across South Florida are keeping that history alive.
more than 160 years, communities across the country have celebrated Juneteenth, a day that marks the end of slavery in the United States. But the holiday is about more than history.
The Juneteenth holiday is the recognition of the beginning of the incorporation of 4 million African Americans finally into the American body politic. And so it's a real wonderful way to celebrate it.
Dr. Tamika Bradley serves as the regional manager of the African American Research Library and Cultural Center in Broward and says many people only recently learned about Juneteenth after it became a federal holiday in 2021. She says it's a time to understand the full American story, including the challenges.
It is a critical marker in this country that marks a point by which we continue to perfect our union. We finally got it right when it came to slavery, and we began the process of incorporating Black people into this body politic. Black men are going to get the right to vote in 1870.
Here in South Florida, the African American Research Library is helping people connect with a community workshop. And this year, that history carries even more weight. Historians say Juneteenth belongs right beside the 4th of July.
Particularly takes on a really interesting flavor this year as we prepare for the 250th anniversary of the United States. I think it's important for us to highlight both of these very interesting pillars in our American chronology.
It's a chance to learn and reflect on the moments in history that helped shape the nation we know today.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.